How we doing, everyone? Listen, tonight we're going to talk about something that's very important. We're going to talk about how do you either set up a generational wealth movement for your family, or how do you set up a generational debt curse? And there's one main thing that I talk about when it comes to this, and so many people are confused on it. Unfortunately, even people in my own industry. And I know a number of you are going to be very upset that I'm pointing this out, but I want to make sure more people have clarity on how life insurance works, but also the different types of options they have. If you saw my video a couple weeks ago, we went over the triangles. We went over what the 95% do versus what the 5% do. But obviously, I said when we talk about like the Rockefeller family, with the first thing that they do on all of their children is set up a life insurance plan. But let me backtrack for you here. Let me take this back. Have you ever played telephone? And I got a few people here in the office. You guys ever played telephone before?
Yes.
Remember as a kid where you start off and like you're talking about a banana and somehow on the other side it's a completely different conversation? I feel like that's what most life insurance agents have done, or most financial professionals have done when it comes to explaining how to create generational wealth. They've completely changed the conversation, and they're not doing it in what's best for the client. They're doing it what's best for their pocket, or they're doing whatever they can remember. So we need to do more homework as individuals in the financial services space. But I want to give you a little bit more of a breakdown today. I've been in this space for going on a decade now. I've been able to be trained by a lot of individuals who are very smart, smarter than I am. But when you're around the right people, it allows you to soak it in, allows you to learn what you need to know. As far as learning from them, there's a few things that I learned. There's a few things that really stood out to me. So I'm hoping that I can kind of dispel some of the myths that maybe having you all confused on what you're doing or what things are best for you. And no, nothing is a one size fits all. Let me put that disclaimer out there. Just because I go over this, you still need to sit down with a financial professional. You still need to have them break this down for you, because even though I go over kind of the key points, the highlights of each piece, it doesn't mean it's what's right for your family right now. So always sit down with a financial professional, whether it's myself or somebody else. But now you know, now you're armed. That's my key tonight. That's my main goal. I want you to be armed to understand that who you're talking to, you can ask the right questions. That's fair, isn't it? I think that's fair. Now here, actually, let me swing this way. So a term policy. The challenge with a term policy is a lot of people forget that a term policy at work is not the same thing as you going out and getting your own term policy from a company. A term policy in general is affordable. If I'm doing a group policy through my work, I might be getting $100,000 in coverage for maybe like $5 a month, something cheap, right? But the downside with that work policy is, even though they both can expire, with that work policy, does it expire the minute that I leave the company? If I get let go, is that policy gone? There's people that we spoke to during the pandemic that had policies, but unfortunately, because they got let go during the pandemic, which obviously wasn't their choice, but they got laid off, or there was downsizing because of people having to do the work from home stuff. But because of that, the policy lapsed. Then they passed away, and they had no coverage for their family at a time that was very hard. So you want to have something set up outside. So if you leave your job, it doesn't go away. The second biggest challenge with a term policy from your job is there enough coverage? Am I really secured if something happens to me tomorrow? Am I taking care of my family? I opened this whole thing talking about generational debt curse versus generational wealth movement. The majority of us in this country are being trained on how to set our family up with a generational debt curse. And I know most of you think about it because that's what we always hear. Don't have enough money, never going to have enough money, nobody left anything to me. Why don't you be the first person that starts a generational wealth movement in your family, not the person that continues the generational debt curse? So with a term policy, if you're out there, if you're wondering, A, do I have the right one? Or B, you know what? I don't actually have enough coverage, Chris. I don't have coverage at all. I need to go have that conversation. Great. Very simple rules. When you're looking at the policy, A, go get the policy yourself. Don't get it through your job, please. If they give it to you for free, if they give it to you cheap, you can take that and have them subtract that from the total amount of coverage you really need. But you want to get one that fits your budget. Very simple. You want one from a reputable company, so A-rated or above. And again, this is not financial advice. This is just my keys to look at. And then you also want to find one that has living benefits included. And obviously make sure you're getting the right amount of coverage. So I'll even throw a fourth one on here. But it's nothing crazy. It's nothing special. It's nothing that's gonna make you a superstar to try and ask all these questions. Does it fit my budget? Is it an A-rated company? Are they a quality company? Does it have living benefits? Living benefits, and people get confused on this. A term policy through some of the top companies in the industry will have living benefits. What does that mean? That means if I have a heart attack, stroke, develop cancer, need long-term like care, that I'm able to utilize my death benefit while I'm still alive. Because one of the biggest knocks on term policies, and you'll hear it all day long, is that a lot of them, a very high percentage, never pay out. But Chris, why would I want it then? I want to throw money away. It's like renting, but you're getting it for such a low premium. You're getting it for such a low amount of money. But I'm older, I'm 40 years old. Great. Do you have the money to go right to a perm policy? If you don't, it's fine to start with a term policy. Many of them today are convertible. I don't want to go too in depth today, but having a term policy is very smart. Why? Because if I put away, round numbers, if I put away $84 a month, that's $1,000 a year on average. Okay, if I'm putting that into a term policy, and I get that policy for 30 years, that's $30,000. But if I passed away with say a $500,000 policy, my family gets that $500,000, even if it's in 29 years and 364 days, they still get that money. Even if it's on day 2, they still get that money. So just putting your $100 or your $84 a month into a checking account, a savings account, even in the market, it's not guaranteed that there's going to be as much there when you pass away. So this is a great way to start, whether you're on a budget or you're just trying to get used to having that additional cost come out each month. Now, what if we jump forward? What if we jump to the permanent policy? This is a different approach. This is now truly creating that generational wealth movement because it's going to outlive me. It is guaranteed as long as you pay your premium until 121 years old. So if you're one of the longest living people, and I've had a few around me lately, but if you're somebody that has a family that lives a very long time, you're going to want to look at a permanent policy as far as making sure that you don't outlive it. Now, the other part of a permanent policy, and you'll hear people try and knock on these, a permanent policy is not an investment. That's what drives me crazy. I probably should do a video on the 3 ways money grows. But before I get to doing that, if you look at a permanent policy, there's a cash value attached to it. Ernst & Young did a great study talking about the fact that if you're going to have an optimized retirement plan, you want to have variable products, you want to have cash value life insurance, and you want to have a FIA. Very simple. But utilizing the cash value in a permanent policy is not looked at for investing. That's a way for me to leverage and have that money when the market goes down. Because we all know every 7 to 10 years, what happens with the market? It goes down. So how do I have money set on the side that's been growing with the market that I'll never lose a dollar and I'm able to leverage when the market's down? So I can buy in at that, not necessarily the bottom, but I can buy in when it's low. The second part of the permanent policies is third part is the fact that they're tax advantage. One big thing that I've learned by being around individuals making good money and also studying the wealthiest families is they understand how to control their taxes. The majority of us aren't in control of our taxes. We're just being led to do whatever they tell us to do. How has that worked out for you so far? What if you could put yourself in a position to actually control your taxes and more so dictate long-term what your family is going to be paying? Well, Stacks, I'm worried about estate taxes. My family's already worth 20 million. We're going to be at 30 million before I pass away. Well, if you look at history, if you've got, say, 30 years or 40 years until you pass away, there's a likelihood that taxes, if they keep going, will be about 60 million by that point. But also, if you're worried about that, when you set this up, put it in a trust. Put it in an ILIT. Now it's taken care of. Again, this is not financial advice. The last one is, or the negative of this, is it is more money per month. If you're going to structure these out, I hate when I see people online talking about infinite banking or be your own bank concepts, and they're telling you at 35, 40 years old to put in $50. You put in $50 anywhere, even if it's dollar cost averaging and you're doing it consistently, you're not going to be wealthy by the time you pass away. It is highly unlikely. So depending on your age, that's where you really figure out how much money you need to be putting into these on a monthly or on a yearly basis, more specifically on a yearly basis, to get to the end goal that you're looking for. A permanent policy is not a short-term strategy. A permanent policy is, I'm currently 34 and I'm focused on 65. I'm focused on 55, whatever the number is, but I have to be thinking of the future. I'm not thinking of today. If you are in a position where you can put in a good deal of money and you're looking to leverage this for upcoming real estate purchases, upcoming investment opportunities outside of the life insurance, but you want somewhere to park the money in the meantime, that is something you can do. But we're not talking about $5,000. We're talking $100,000. So if somebody's trying to pitch you on that with a different concept or different number, reach out to me. I'll happily do a complimentary sit down and compare the numbers for you to see if it really does make sense. And there's two different permanent policies you can utilize. There's a whole life policy and there's an IUL. Depending on your age, I wouldn't say either one of them are necessarily better. Either one of them, the first and foremost focus should be, what do I have when I'm 75, 85, 95 years old and pass away? Which one is going to be on the books? There are ways you could argue that I don't care about that. I just want the tax-free money. I get that. You don't want to leave anything to your family. But for those of you who do like your family, those of you that do want to pass on money to your kids, what if you could spend, and I know especially my ladies that are watching right now, what if you could spend every dollar you ever make and guarantee that money goes on to the next generation? That sounds amazing. No. But what if you could make sure that the money going on to the next generation is tax-free and Uncle Sam doesn't get to touch it? What if you can make sure that your last check is almost bouncing, but you're guaranteeing $100,000, $250,000, $500,000, $1 million is going to the next generation tax-free? That is a permanent life insurance policy. So the challenge is term policies are being sold improperly because they're being sold as an expense. It is not an expense. There's plenty of things that we're out there buying, that you're out there buying, that are expenses for you, but that's not what you should be focusing on right now. This is, how do I take care of my family if something happens tomorrow? How do I replace my income? How do I pay off all debts? How do I make sure that my family's in a better financial position tomorrow than they are today? How do I make sure that even if a wealthy family didn't come before me, I'm guaranteeing a wealthy family comes after me? So yes, we have to start thinking about the next generation. And so many people don't do that. The permanent policy is that long-term approach. That permanent policy is locking it in. Now we're taking care of. Yes, there's ways to build money inside of it. Yes, there's ways to have tax advantages. And yes, you can leverage it to use that money for other investments. It is not an investment in itself. The industry, the life insurance industry, we're one of the only industries where we can talk to you about guarantees. Now, I hope between breaking down work versus personal, I hope explaining what you should look for right here in the middle if you're looking for a term policy right now, and then I'm hoping giving you clarity on, so whole life policy, IULs both have cash value. Not all companies, when it comes to the permanent space, offer living benefits. So I tell everybody, especially today, number one cause of bankruptcy, medical bills. Make sure your policy has living benefits. So if something happens, it's taken care of. Don't buy two separate policies. You leverage the policies together so you can save money, but also still put your family in a position to take care of all that if it happens. I hope I gave you guys some clarity tonight between the term policies, the permanent policies, how you can leverage them, more importantly, and how you can put your family in a position, like I said, to have a generational wealth movement, not continuing that generational debt curse that so many of us have been dealing with. If you have questions, comment in the chat below. Comment on Facebook. If you have questions, you can DM me. If you have my number, feel free to shoot me a text message. But I appreciate everyone hopping on. I hope you found this valuable. And until next time, talk soon.